So we'll get another minute to go. We're just starting.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody.
It's 1 p.m. sharp, Central European time. We'll get it one more minute, so we allow everyone to join, probably install the Zoom client, and then 1 past 1, we start the session. Welcome, everyone. There are still some seats, please. I see in the front row there are a couple of seats available, so don't be shy. Just join us. And happy to have you here on the sunny day out of Amsterdam. Welcoming you for this episode. Good. All right. I think we all set. Good afternoon. Good morning, US. Good afternoon, England, and good afternoon to our friends in the Nordics. My name is Morteza Stakey, and I'm your host today. I'd like to welcome you to this episode, the Streamlining User Environment. So we're here today. I believe around 2 months ago, we did this session in Dutch, focusing on the life after Ivanti Workspace Control, or Workspace Manager, RES Workspace Manager. And since we did it in Dutch, we did receive a lot of requests whether we could do this in English. Hence the reason we are sitting here today to go through the same session, but this time in English. With me, I have Barry. Barry is a lead technical architect for us. Has been with the company for the last 5 years, and recently joined in our team, in the Northern Europe team, Danny being with Liquidware since November last year. But it's been with RES, later Ivanti, I believe since what was it, 2011, Danny?
Yep, correct.
And like I said, I'm your host, Morteza. I'm with Liquidware since 2016. Prior to Liquidware, I was responsible for the European sales team, the EMEA sales team at RES, before the acquisition happened to Ivanti. And I'm happy to host you today. Some housekeeping. If you have questions, you're all muted. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box, so we will answer them either directly or after the session. We're here today to talk about an era. It all started back in '99 out of a garage in a village called Os, and that's where RES, the real enterprise solution, started. With the product Power Menus. Over the years, it got after Power Views, Workspace Manager. We came in 4th of July 2017, where Ivanti acquired RES Workspace Manager. RES, being a Dutch organization, was now acquired by a US organization called Ivanti. Over the after the acquisition, the name changed and it became Ivanti Workspace Control. End of 2023, early 2024, Ivanti announced to the partners and the end users that they are planning to make an end on an era and make an end on RES Workspace Manager, Ivanti Workspace Control. So Ivanti Workspace Control is been end of life by end of 2026. I mean, end of 2026, we will say bye to RES Workspace Manager. The product has been in maintenance mode for a while, and although we say 2026, although we say December 2026, and it sounds far away, but when we talk about user environment management solutions like Ivanti Workspace Control, transforming from that to something else that will take more time. So it sounds far away, 1 year and 9 months from now, but loads of organizations are now with the challenge. What are we going to do? What are all the alternatives, right? directly after Ivanti announced the fact that Ivanti Workspace Control is end of life, we saw a lot of posts coming in on LinkedIn, on Twitter or X, where we still need a user environment management, where a solution like Intune is not sufficient enough. This is where Liquidware, we do provide some solutions, and today we will go and explain what we could do. Now, with that, I'm going to hand over the microphone to my colleague, Barry, and he will take us through this session. Thanks.
Thanks, Morteza, and welcome everyone again. Yeah, today is about Ivanti Workspace Control being end of life, of course, but also, like Morteza mentioned, why we still need a user environment management. Because if we look back in history in the evolution of end-user computing, a lot of things has changed, but at the end, I think we are still in the same era of the need of managing complex organizations and complex infrastructures, and therefore also the need for additional tooling to manage the user's workspace, right? We started with traditional PCs. That's also the era where RES was born back in the days, early Citrix days. And if you look at today, we might migrate away from Citrix, and maybe we go to cloud solutions, but also a lot of physical endpoints again, so-called the modern workplace, and so a lot of things has changed, but in the end we still are facing the same challenges. Also take into account that the end-user computing space is moving, and what I mean by that is that, of course, large vendors like Citrix and VMware, or now Omnissa, are sold to investment companies, and a lot of noise is coming from the investments and from the acquisitions, because Citrix, maybe they stopped with some of the products, later they continue to work with some of the products. We saw the same with VMware. VMware was bought by Broadcom sold then the end user computing division to another company, and for end users, the customers, this is really hard to follow and hard to trust on if you think about that. If you need to think at least ahead a couple of years, planning and maintaining your end user environment. So this is two big changes in the end user computing, and of course, like Ivanti, but also Microsoft Windows 10 and AppV are becoming end of life soon. When you look at Windows 10, it's all already this year. And Microsoft AppV has been end of life, if you ask me, for a couple of years already. But the official date for at least the management solution of AppV is also next year, so 2026, I believe, 1 year from today. So a lot of products that are still present in a lot of organizations, again, managing the complex situations, are still in use and becoming end of life in not too long. So also interesting stuff to take into account when looking at the future of your workspace. And then, of course, all the trends. Microsoft is pushing Intune, Microsoft is pushing Microsoft 365, Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, and everything that comes with it. So that's also a reason why a lot of organizations are thinking about moving to, or already moving to, one of those solutions. And again, it will bring up the same questions. That's what I talked about in the last slide. Bring up the same questions that we already have for the last 20 years. How do I manage my profiles? How do I manage my applications, right? So a lot of stuff going on. So why organizations still need UEM, User Environment Management? We still have Win32 applications, right? If you think about government, healthcare organizations, financial services organizations, they all come with hundreds of applications. Now, using AppV is an easy way to manage applications, but it's also a technology that is becoming end of life and becoming more complex and complex with the modern applications. So we need another way to manage the apps. And installing everything on the endpoint or everything in the golden image is not really an option for most of us. So we need to have something to manage that, right? And of course, with Windows 32 applications, there comes the settings, the end user settings, the application settings, the Windows settings. That's what we like to call the profile or the workspace. At one end, people make changes to the profiles and we want to keep them and take them to another workstation or another virtual desktop, or maybe switch from cloud to on-prem. And at the other end, we like to force settings, right? We like to control the workspace now and then. We like to force group policies and maybe registry keys. And we do not want to wait till the settings are arrived at the end user session for too long, because if we want to make a change, we want to make sure the change is made now, right? Instantly. So that's important, apps and profiles. And of course, the end user, not all end users are that smart when they are at work, maybe in their own job and not with computers and starting and managing applications. So we can't leave everything to the end user. We can't say, okay, this is your new laptop and good luck with it. You can install your own applications and, you know, oh, all the settings and certificates you had, well, you need to do that again, right? So it takes you a couple of extra hours to onboard your new laptop, but that's your problem. You need to be, you know, self-healing in that scenario. And last but not least, of course, security. I know Microsoft is pushing on the security piece a lot, but from an end user perspective, being able to just use the applications and are allowed to start applications you are entitled to is also a form of security. So why we want still to lock down the desktop and the user is not able to start, you know, some management processes or command prompts or PowerShells. We like to control that and like to only allow that by, you know, the power users that are entitled to do that kind of stuff. And of course, there's a lot more stuff around the security space, but these are more or less the things that we come across a lot within the organizations, especially when they are using things like Ivanti Workspace Control. So taking that into in account, if we look at modern management, a lot of stuff is still challenging. We have to deal with connectivity. End user experience is becoming more and more important because end users can work everywhere today. They want to, you know, choose their own things and work on their own way and maybe their own location. So those two, connectivity and user experience, is really important. We want to make sure that everything is working okay for the end user. But at the same time, because of modern management, we might need to manage multiple deployment workflows, right? Multiple golden images, multiple cloud, on-premise, physical machines. So that becomes really different and difficult if you look at, you know, the on-premise situations that we had a couple of years ago. So you might want to manage that with just a couple of management solutions. And that's, of course, why we talk today about Ivanti Workspace Control and ProfileUnity and FlexApp, which are the solutions from Liquidware. To give you a brief view on what we are doing, if you think about the end user experience, if you think about the end user and managing the workspace and applications, Liquidware is offering a couple of solutions that are in the end user computing space. User environment management, which is called ProfileUnity, is the equivalent of what you see today for some of the customers that are here using Ivanti Workspace Control, right? So we are head-to-head with that kind of solutions, delivering a broad set of modules, being able to manage your workspace. But what is important here is that we do not care about the platform or the physical or virtual or cloud state of your endpoint. As long as it's a Windows OS, because this is a Windows problem, right? We are good. The same applies to application portability. And application portability is the technology that we like to call FlexApp. And FlexApp is integrated with ProfileUnity in the management console, allowing you to manage from a single management console your applications as well as your user settings. And I will cover a couple of other topics within the user environment management space as well. But this is mainly what we do with ProfileUnity and FlexApp. Again, we support cloud storage, native integration, and everything that comes with it. And at the other end, we also allow you to monitor and remediate your end users, focusing on the end user experience, make sure the organization and individual users and applications are performing the way you expect it to be, and also allowing you to remediate and help the end user from remote to do their work as they want to. Maybe if they have an issue, they can, support them remotely, take over the screen, remote control, kill some sessions and things like that. So it's a complete suite of management focusing on the end users and devices. So our modular approach to the workspace is that we, like I said, we do not want to intermingle too much with the underlying platform, right? So if it's a physical virtual cloud, we are okay. As long as there's a Windows desktop or server OS running, we can then install the agent on top of it. That allows you to bring the security layer and the context layer to the Windows desktop OS. Right? That means if a user logs in, our agent hijacks the session and thinks about what do I need to configure for this user based on the security privileges they have and based on the group memberships and the location where they are working from today. And based on that context, we then deliver the applications to the end users, and in the end also manage the profile, the applications and policy management with the same management console. And to make sure we deliver the applications and settings the users need and they are able to work they want to, we also bring you the digital employee experience through a management console. So you are able to see things like login times, Wi-Fi coverage, application usage and crashes and things like that. Everything that is important for you to be proactive in managing the user experience. So what is it all about if you think about a future solution, right? We talked about a couple of the challenges and evolutions in the end user computing space. So taking that into account, it's really important to be compatible with any of the solutions brought to the table when you talk with a customer. I have a couple of examples why this is important and what kind of scenarios we are running into. First, the deployment, right? We do not force a user or an end user to use cloud as a solution to manage our, the Liquidware management console and things like that. But we also don't want them to force to bring that local in their own data center, right? If a end user is moving to cloud, we allow you to install the server locally and manage on-prem and cloud desktops from the same management console. If they want to be cloud only, we allow you to, take it from the marketplace in Azure or Amazon, deploy the server and manage it from the cloud only. We do not need on-premise AD. We do not need things like SCCM or GPOs to manage our profiles and applications. So we allow you to, choose anything you want. And some examples, of course, that we see a lot are users of the marketplace to bring the server in, use Intune to deploy the agent together with Autopilot, and from that point being able to manage your AVD or Windows 365 or Intune managed laptop. Right, so it's the freedom of choice. That's what it's all about if you think about this slide. The next one is the identity, right? I already said we don't need the local AD to use the management console. We support SAML and that kind of things to access the management console. But of course, from an endpoint perspective, we also do not want to limit you to any scenario. So if you are hybrid joined, Entra ID only joined, or still on-premise Active Directory only, that's fine. You can use a mix of that together in one single management console and use our context engine to make sure people get what they need on their machine they are working on, right? So they can work on the physical desktop on the morning and take their Intune laptop in the afternoon to work remotely, for example, and they will receive the same experience on both machines. And of course, there's a lot of technology around that and behind that to make sure we can do that, you know, through internet and Microsoft standard APIs. We support OAuth to bring the applications. We can sign applications and things like that. So it's a lot on the table there. And then, of course, the connectivity. And we talked about the connectivity. We do not know for sure if people are online all the time, if they use a laptop. We also do not want to limit physical endpoints or virtual endpoints to, you know, access a company network. Like back in the days, everything was open. So maybe they need to connect over the internet, like the public Wi-Fi in the Starbucks. Maybe they need to connect over the Wi-Fi at home. Maybe they're on the corporate Wi-Fi or docked into a docking station, things like that. And actually, we don't care about that as well. We support Microsoft Blob Storage, so you can connect over internet. We support traditional LAN deployments with you know, normal file clusters and things like that. So also, based on the use case you have, we have the right fit for you to deploy applications and settings. We do not limit the user to, you know, come in every week to get the latest updates for the applications and settings. No, that's always up to date. And offline, of course, if people are offline, everything like the applications they are entitled to, the configurations they are entitled to are cached offline. So next time they log in and they are offline, they will still get the same experience as before they got offline. And then devices, right? We have a broad choice of, you know, kind of devices you want to work on, especially in healthcare. We see a lot of things like shared desktops or laptops, maybe kiosk machines, multi-user, single user. There's also, you know, the flavors that you have in Azure Virtual Desktop deployments and Windows 365 deployments. A lot of different flavors for Windows 10, Windows 11, Server 2022 and 2025. And we support all of them. And together with the technologies we have inside ProfileUnity and FlexApp, we also allow you to still make it personal. Even if it's a shared laptop or you have a multi-user Azure Virtual Desktop machine based on Windows 11, if one user gets the app, the other user still can't use the app on the same machine, right? If it's not entitled to the app. So that's also the security part, of course, that is bringing to the in the technology. And then simplicity, right? We do not want you to take days out of your schedule to just implement our management server. Like I said, it's also on the marketplace. That's, you know, drag and drop to your own environment. It deploys the machine together with a running management console, and you're up to speed to deploy the agent. But also simplicity from a management perspective, right? If we look at how our management console works, we like you to be able to quickly make changes, adapt to application updates, adapt to security updates you need to force on your machine. So we were able to do that with a web console. And the web console you can access from anywhere as long as you're entitled to the web console and able to access it to the server, but you do not need to be on the server itself. We have a context engine that allows you to create that context on, you know, hundreds of different conditions and combination of conditions. And we have the inventory management to store all the FlexApp applications. And we bring that together into one single management console. And we call that, you know, configurations or workspaces if you are used to that. And if you look at this workspace, you see all the modules becoming together into one single place. And from here, you are able to manage your applications, right? You can assign the applications, you can create the context and attach that to the applications that you want to deliver. And, you know, it's all drag and drop. So if you package the application, if you use packaging automation, the packages are available in your inventory and you are ready to assign them to your end users. Some other important things, you know, we have start menu management. We can force you to create shortcuts in the pinned items area of Windows, on the desktop, in the start menu, for all users or a couple of users. And we have still different options to, you know, customize the shortcuts, like assigning custom icons, custom command lines arguments, and things like that. We allow you to configure triggers. So what happens when a user reconnects or unlocks a desktop? Do we need to change something? Do we need to change the start menu based on the IP address change? Things like that. And that is, you know, makes it very dynamic, because users are moving, right? And you need that when you look at today's work era. Now, some other examples I know that are hard to deploy with, you know, things like Intune, registry keys, GPOs, printers, AppV applications. You need to script everything together before things are working. And that is giving you a lot of headache when you want to continue manage that from there, or, you know, give some colleagues the opportunity to manage that, because they all need to be script kiddies. And we want you to focus on, you know, innovating and modernizing your endpoint and being able to manage that kind of settings, the printers and policies, really easy way. And that's exactly what I'm showing here in the endpoint. So, like I said, this management console, we don't care where it runs, on-prem, cloud, or, you know, both. That's fine. We can manage any endpoint from this management console. This management console is also able to have, you know, things like DTAP integrated, you know, development, test, acceptance, and production. We can have multiple customers if you are a managed service provider into one management console, and everything is strictly separated from each other. And we can add role-based access control to the management console to make sure you're only allowed to see, you know, the configurations you are entitled to as an admin. So also a good admin experience. So let's focus a little bit more on ProfileUnity versus Ivanti Workspace Control, right? I introduced Liquidware and I focused on, you know, the challenges and the things that are changing within the end user computing space. We showed you, you know, some highlights of how easy it is to integrate ProfileUnity and how we use the management console to manage, you know, the modules and the profiles and the workspaces. But now we like to know more about how we get from Ivanti Workspace Control. You know, if you're an existing customer and you want to migrate over to ProfileUnity, how does that work? Where do we need to think about? Right, so this is where we're focusing on right now. And we've also talked with Danny on his experience recently on doing this. So some topics before you start migrating, right? And Morteza mentioned it's the end of 2026 when it's becoming end of life. But, you know, from my experience, workspace management solutions, especially Ivanti Workspace Control, of course, but also others, they are really tied into the management of your workspace, right? You can't rip and replace it with another solution without any admin work, right? So you need to put a lot of work into that before you can go to from A to B, right? What do we need to migrate? What do I want to support from an endpoint perspective, a physical, virtual cloud? Do I want to migrate everything or just, you know, the settings I like to keep for Windows 11? The user profiles itself, right? Users already have existing profiles. Do we want to keep the profiles? Do we want to take some of the profile stuff and take it with us and manage it from there? And based on that three base questions, when do we need to start, right? If you want to migrate next year, you already might need to start today planning and testing the migration, but also take into account the thing I said earlier about Windows 10 going end of life in October. If that is a big migration for you and you are putting a lot of efforts in your current user environment management solution to support Windows 11, why not directly start from scratch? Why not take Windows 11 migration as a starting point to rethink the user environment strategy and look into alternatives for Ivanti? So also really important for your timeline, because that one is a little bit closer than the end of 2026. And then, of course, what is the impact on admins and what is the impact on users? And I think, from that perspective, the end user maybe will just see another splash screen or no splash screen at all. If you do the good job, the right job, people just see their same desktop, the same applications, and the same shortcuts. From an end user perspective, it should be the same. Not too much change, except from Windows 10 to 11 maybe, but not too much change in how they are used to work today. From admins, it's a little bit different because they need to manage stuff from a different management console. They are used to work with a solution for over 10 years or 20 years maybe, and now they need to rethink a kind of how they do things and how they manage things within other management consoles. Right? So maybe you need a workshop or training to get up to speed. In the end, it's still the same, right? You're still managing shortcuts, you're still managing registry values and administrative templates and printers and drive mappings, but a little bit different how we do it. So you might need some training on that. And Danny, I already mentioned you because you are doing a lot of work lately on, onboarding our newer customers to ProfileUnity and migrate away from Ivanti Workspace Control. Can you, give some more insights on what options we have for conversioning and migrating, and what steps you literally have to do every time when you migrate a customer and help them onboarding?
Thank you, Barry. Yeah, I can certainly help in that because some might know I have worked for almost 13 years at first RES and then later Ivanti. So I had a function on as a support engineer there. So currently we are having or we are doing a lot of helping a lot of customers migrating from Ivanti Workspace Control to Liquidware ProfileUnity, and of course on top of that Flex app because of the end of life also for AppV. So we have a couple of tools that help us, in this case, what you see here, a conversion tool that we can use to convert the current Ivanti Workspace Control configuration with a building block from Workspace Control. And then we can supply that building block back to the customer, where then he can import that in a Liquidware ProfileUnity as a configuration. And of course, from that point on, straight away use that configuration on a specific test machine, for instance, at first, and see what kind of content has been converted to ProfileUnity. There's a lot in there, as you can see on the right side. After the conversion, that we have, of course, can convert the shortcuts, the execute commands, the global items, which are the registry ones, and the user-defined scripts, mappings, environment variables, drive mappings, security items, and folder redirections. That's the most of the content, mostly when we, after the conversion, that the customer can use or even use as an example, because as you mentioned before, it could be that you're migrating away from Windows 10 and to Windows 11, and you have used Workspace Control all, let's say, for 10 years or longer, which also means that you have a lot of content in that old configuration that you even don't want to take with you. But after we have run the conversion, it is possible to check out the configuration because of the differences there are from Workspace Control versus ProfileUnity. So could give you some ideas on how you can go from there. So maybe we can go to the next slide.
Yeah, one more thing on the conversion. Like you said, it's converted into our format, so you can import that directly into the ProfileUnity management console. But we don't force you to import everything. So if you just want the printers because you have 700 printer queues, or just want to have the drive mappings or the registry keys, that's fine too, right? You only import that JSON into the ProfileUnity management console. And to add a little bit more on that, you mentioned you are doing a lot of migrations to Ivanti and also FlexUp. That's really important as well, because that the timing of, you know, going end of life with Ivanti and AppV, you know, unsure or what's happening with AppV and going end of life for management purposes.
Yes.
A lot of customers are taking that into the same project, right? Migrating away from AppV, not overnight, not all apps at once, but, you know, use the conversion tool as well to convert AppV packages into FlexApp format, or rebuild their applications in FlexApp format if they want, and go from there. So yeah.
Or they can even use the option within ProfileUnity to, if they have a different strategy, let's say from a V point of view, they can say, okay, I want to create new Flex apps, but currently I'm using AppV. So it's still possible to use the AppV deployment that we also have within ProfileUnity. So they can do that at that time, and then later on start building the Flex apps to put in at the later time, let's say.
Right. Yeah, at their own pace. That's
at their own pace. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So how does a migration typically look like? So what we'll do at the customer side is, of course, we set up the ProfileUnity backend, which is eventually you start off with one server, and it's really easy to set up because we have only one executable which installs it all. We don't have any SQL Server configuration or a database needed because we have our own database system that's also in the installation. From there on, we can deploy eventually everything that you need. So we have the client that can be deployed from that same backend, and we need to set up some GPOs, for instance, if you want to use that. And we even see that you can leverage other deployment systems for that if you have any other currently at your within
like Intune.
the firm. Like Intune or something else. So after you have done the preparing the agent, you can actually start harvesting the user profile settings. So that means that you can run both UEM solutions side by side, and we will do the let's say you want to save something from a Word point of view, then you can start also saving that from a ProfileUnity point of view. So you have that also saved, and then at a given point you can say, okay, I want to stop using that UEM. So in this case, for instance, Workspace Control, and then you can switch it off, and then you only have our agent and the client doing all the settings and the saving and putting the settings back.
Yeah, so there will be a smooth transition from one profile management to the other for the end user, right? They don't see the difference actually.
Yeah, indeed. So that can be done without even knowing that it's running in the background, because we can also, for instance, hide the splash screen, and then at a later moment you can also turn that on from ProfileUnity point of view. So and then of course if you have tested that all and it's working, then you can do the swap from Workspace Control to ProfileUnity.
All right, cool. So yeah, both views from the end user and the administration are covered in the migration, right? We want to help the admin not spending too much time in migrating every setting, right? So we help them with the conversion.
Yep.
But at the same time, of course, garbage out is garbage in. So we need to, be selective in what we want to migrate. But at least you don't have to copy paste every registry key that you find in the management console and put it into ProfileUnity. And
well, sometimes
a lot.
It gives the admins some more insight, because we, for instance, can if we do the switch or have done the migration, then they can actually take a look in a more, let's say, better overview of what items are in there. because we list them from top to bottom. It's not yeah, sometimes it's hidden behind an application or something, but it's very clear to see what's happening there. So they came across a couple of scripts that said, that's something we don't need anymore, so we'll leave that out. So we're not taking that into granted for the next step. And of course, there was Windows 10 related, and then Windows 11 is going to be deployed. So yeah, gave them a better overview.
Optimization at the same time. Yeah,
indeed.
That's nice.
So when you take a look at the comparison of what's the naming, let's say, convention is within Workspace Control and later on in a Liquidware ProfileUnity. So what you have in Workspace Control, which is called Application Management, it's the name within ProfileUnity is shortcut module. And there you can eventually create the shortcuts on the start menu, desktop, taskbar, even in the start menu itself. That's something you can create there. Then we have the administrative rights. So there's still, of course, sometimes there's some applications that could need elevation as to an admin point of view, because they need to install HK local machine keys or make something available within the user session. And that's something we also have within ProfileUnity, that's called privilege elevation. Then, of course, the app guard, we have that also available within ProfileUnity, and that's called application restrictions, which gives you the ability to allow executables and deny executables. So that's a possibility. Then I mentioned that before. So we have AppV publishing via application, and we even have that also in our ProfileUnity. And what we also have is, you could have an application that you want to configure for the machine, let's say. That's also a possibility that you can do with AppV or MSIX. So you can roll that out during the start of the machine. So you can make differences in a user configuration and a machine configuration. That's also what I hear from customers, that could be a solution for them, because sometimes in a particular AppV package could take a lot of time to be enrolled, but you can take that time and use it from the user session to the machine boot, and then it's applied during the machine start. And of course, we have user settings that's called portability settings on our side. So we can eventually fine-grain those settings that the user wants to take with. And it's also leveraged on a on-prem base and an Azure base. So you can even provide those portability settings on an Azure platform or an Azure Workplace. Then we have the outstart of applications that's possible. There we have the application launcher, and the application launcher is also something where you can bind in execute commands or PowerShell functionality to be started doing the logon. It's really powerful. So that's really a good note. Then you have the folder redirection, of course, is also present. It's a one-on-one, so we also call that folder redirection. Then we have the ability for the user registry. It's called user registry, and we have a difference in administrative templates. So it's the policies that you can eventually apply on. Then execute command is called user-defined scripts on our side. So you can just push the CMDs, PowerShells, and batch files as you want. And then we have the lockdown and behavior option, which is Windows options settings on our side, where you can eventually apply the customization of the user session background, retain the FTAs, the file type associations. So those will be saved the next time the user logs on. So
cool. Thanks.
Really covered everyththing.
But there's more. There's more.
Yeah, there's even more. Yeah, so we have even a extra functionality with ProfileUnity, so we can clean up local profiles. There's also a function in there. So of course you have your VDIs when you reboot, and they're of course newly freshly built. But if you have if you need to clean up the local profiles, we even have a switch for that. You can configure that in a configuration item. I mentioned that before, the configuration on machine level, which make it available so you can even push AppVs on a global machine level, or you can even push in registry items on machine boot, for instance. Then there's a nice option. I played around with it, of course. It's called machine inventory, where you can eventually get all the software and hardware details of the machine, and you can put that on a given share that you want, or a UNC path. And of course, we have the profile disk option, which I also see a lot being used at customers who have actually a VDI or a remote a multi-session machines. The profile disks are leveraged on those. And of course, when you take a look at FAT clients, they use the portability, so the user setting option. Like I mentioned before, we only have one server is needed, so the architecture is really simple to set up, and everything is in there. So you start off with one machine, but you have all the functionality already available. You only need to deploy it, and it's very easy to do. Then the Flex app functionality, so you can even put in the Flex app in the configuration, and those will be handed out. So that's very easy and nice to do.
Yep.
The management console is web-based, and all the things that are there eventually underneath, I already mentioned. So I think I will leave it at that.
Cool, thanks. And I think there were some questions coming in as well. So
yes, there are some questions coming. So it's good that we're hitting 50 minutes to 2. We promised that we will stop. There are some questions coming. It was not really a surprise that we have a lot of folks from the Nordics coming. Out of experience, when I was at RES, we had, after the Netherlands, majority of our people, our customer base was based out of the Norway and the Scandinavian countries. So we do have, so I hope I do not misspell the names here. Erlich is asking a question, Danny. What can we not convert from IWC to ProfileUnity? What are the stuff that we are not able to migrate?
Of course, the settings itself. When you take a look at the content of the user settings, for instance, that's something like we mentioned before. You need to harvest. Furthermore, there's nothing really at the moment I can think of that we can't.
Yeah.
That the customer is missing, but maybe Barry has some insights on that.
Yeah, the user settings that are configured itself in the management console, we do not convert, but we do offer a lot of templates built into the product to again harvest the profile. So that's not really a problem.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So some of the questions that have come in, later on, you guys have, answered it already, but I will repeat it. Alexander is saying, do I need a SQL server? But I guess you answered it, right?
It's not needed. No.
I do get a question as what about the custom resources, as Fabian is asking.
We have you point to a UNC path. So eventually the custom resources are not present. You have, for instance, if you want to have an user-defined script being pushed, you have to point to a different path. So that could be on the network, or that could be something on a local machine that you first need to copy in there and then run from there. So that's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a copy module on the roadmap, which is soon, that allows you to just point to a location and said, make sure this, like a robocopy script, make sure this content is on the machine.
So it's like a user home data copy job, like a workspace.
Kind of, yeah, yes, yeah.
Okay. Cool.
One more question. What about workspaces? Fabian is asking, divide devices in different systems. I'm sure you guys understand this.
Yeah, correct. So when you take a look at, I know a bit, I know Fabian, so I know his environment a bit. So you can indeed split off the differences in, let's say, you have a server-based configuration that you can apply to that system. And then you have a desktop-based system that you can apply to that desktop only. So you eventually, what you saw there in the in the demo was that you have a modern workplace, and I think what was the other one, Barry?
VDI.
VDI, yeah. So
You can have
in that,
multiple. Yeah.
you can have multiple ones. That's why it's also very nice to have it at MSPs, because then they can make a difference in between, let's say, company A, company B, company C. The company A could be on that Azure blob storage. Company B could be even on-prem if they have it, the management console installed. So it's really up to you what you need to do. But when you take a look at workspaces and compare it to Workspace Control, then you indeed have a individual configuration within ProfileUnity to put in. That's the best way to do it.
Well, we'll get 2 more questions. Ivor is asking about our license model. So we have a subscription license model. We do in named and concurrent. One more question he asks is, I think we know the answer. Do we have like RES Workspace Manager or Ivanti Workspace Control, different versions? I believe they had in my time, bronze, silver, gold. We don't
really do that. We only have the possibility to do Flex app only, for instance. And then on top of that, you have the ProfileUnity. So that's only the differences. We don't have any bronze, silver, gold, or later on, the administration and so on. No.
Savara is asking about scalability, Barry.
Yeah, so scalability comes with where we host the configuration, right? So the management server itself is not really a discussion on scalability. The licensing service hosts about 10,000 requests per minute. And well, your file server or blob storage that is only serving the INI file to the end users, which is nothing. So it's really scalable. We do have a lot of customers and some really large customers, over 100,000 seats per day. So that's really the way to prove that. Yeah.
Do take this last question on that's what about logging and deep dive diagnostics? So
yeah, we offer debug logging for the client. We do have a diagnostic bundler that takes everything from the endpoint and bring it to for example, a support zip file that you can use yourself to dive into, or use support to find the solution if there's something wrong.
Good.
There's a lot of options there. Yeah.
All right, I think we're going to end this webinar. It's 8:02. I promise we stop at 45. There's some questions coming in. Do ask you if you still have questions and we have not been able to answer that. Please send an email to sales@liquidware.eu. Follow us on LinkedIn, and we will get back to you if you have any questions. For now, I'd like to thank you. First of all, you guys for joining us this afternoon. And I do like to thank Barry and Danny for your time again. And hopefully we see each other online or face-to-face in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.